There it is. The biggest win since 2021. And I am not giving you hyperbole. That was a huge win for the Panthers. Now you're going to play the New York Jets. You're 3-3. You have a chance to go above 500. It's the biggest win since you started 3-0 in 2021. And the story has nothing to do with Rico Dowdle. I think people are overrating the running back in all this. And I think Dowdle's been good. I think he seems to always hit the right hole and be in the right place. But this is about you just downright out-rushing teams. The Panthers have outrushed their opponent by a 405-yard margin. Between the Dolphins game last week and the Cowboys game this past Sunday, you have outrushed the opponent by 405 yards. Like, I had to do the math 2 or 3 times because I go, that doesn't even make sense. That is the story of this. You have ran the ball and stopped the run. I think that mantra dates back to John Fox. And that is how you got into the Super Bowl in the early 2000s. That is what started it all. And this is why the win is so big for me. It's like, there is a path. There's a path, and it has nothing to do with Bryce Young being a messiah. It has nothing to do with Bryce Young needing to be Tom Brady. Or you go back to 2023 and you get the quote from the owner, Bryce Young needs to be the point guard, said David Tepper when they drafted Young. This has nothing to do with that. This is, we're going to be better than you up front. Tua and Dak might be better than Bryce Young, but we're going to outrush you by 200 yards. You're not going to be able to run the ball. And we don't have a ton of star power, but guys like Bobby Brown's been a non-factor, a 51.7 PFF grade coming into this game. I think he has like a couple tackles for loss. He's largely been a non-factor. Can barely make his way into the lineup. Had a couple huge tackles for losses today. You tackle better than the opponent, which I think is just, that's about the system and the coaching. When the Panthers are tackling guys, when Roseboom and Wallace are not great in coverage, I think they were great underneath, but you talk about over the top and intermediate routes, they got burnt all day today. But you know if Dak is looking to go underneath to the tight end, or if they're running the ball, you know those linebackers are going to swarm to the ball carrier and bring them down. You can't say that about the Dolphins. You can't say that about the Cowboys. That is why you won. It is the system. It is the coaching. It is your offensive line looking like a lawnmower, looking like a industrial grade lawnmower, just pushing, mowing down the Cowboys front seven. They did it last week to the Dolphins front seven. And you did it again this week. Dowdle, another huge day. But I think a lot of people are getting too obsessed with the fantasy numbers. Well, I see the fantasy numbers and they don't really dive into the storyline, which is your front on offense, your front on defense is playing better than the opponent. And a lot of that has to do with the system that we have faith in. We have faith in this system. And how about Dave Canales trusting Bryce Young at the end of that game on a 4th and 3, which I think won you the game. And you had to do it there. Some people are saying, well, Canales took a huge risk. I think he made the right choice. Like, what are you going to do? Give the ball back to Dak with time remaining? It's obvious. He's at least going to get a field goal. Are you kidding me? But a couple weeks ago when you're at New England, Canales probably would have punted there. My mind flashbacks the nightmare of Marcus Jones returning that punt. What was it? 83-yard touchdown. After Canales decided to punt when he ran the ball on 3rd and 10. He had a drop play on 3rd and 10. This was growth. Trusting your quarterback to make a play. And Young, the footwork was great on that throw. I think if the pass was 5 miles per hour or less, it's probably intercepted for a touchdown by the Cowboys. He gets it to Renfro. He gets the first down. It puts you in a position. to go and get that field goal by Ryan Fitzgerald, who's been nails. He's been nails. You have a kicker and he's a weapon. He's been freaking nails. And that was an amazing win for this team. And there are some areas we'll have to talk about, areas for improvement. I'll touch on it really quick. And then we're going to talk about the quarterback and Dave Canales. But I do want to talk about this because this was a pretty viral narrative after the game, which was J.C. Horn not traveling. So we're all familiar with this, which is J.C. Horn not traveling to cover the number one wide receiver on the opposing team. And today he didn't do the same thing, or he did the same thing where he didn't travel to cover George Pickens all day. And Pickens had 9 catches for 168 yards and a touchdown. He took advantage of Mike Jackson, who had another poor game for Mike Jackson. Corey Thornton, I have to watch the tape again. I don't think he was great. I saw him mess up a couple of times in the slot. J.C. Horn wasn't perfect either today, but you would think a Dallas team that really, I don't think their game plan was much outside of, we have a better quarterback than the Panthers. Dak Prescott put up 40 points. That was their game plan. You can get on Evero a little bit for not putting J.C. Horn continually on George Pickens. Like, travel and follow and shadow that guy. Be in his pocket. Be in his pocket all game. They didn't do that, and you can blame Evero for that. But besides that, I think Evero did have a pretty good game. Now let's talk about Dave Canales. He had this to say about the Panthers quarterback. Here's a clip.
I thought he was great, better and better just in terms of the communication with the guys. It's a lot of hard work. These guys have been working together, working on things in practice, as we continue to challenge the group, and they took to that.
Better and better for Bryce Young. That's what Canales says about the Panthers. Third-year signal caller. He did later go on to give Young credit for the first down, get down at the end of the game. So ETN, he picks up that first down. He has like the walk-in touchdown. He gets down, which was a smart choice. It's like, just don't give the ball to Dak. Don't give the ball to Dak at the end of the game. Get down. And at first I'm like, oh, you're trusting Ryan Fitzgerald here. And Fitzgerald's been great, but he's a rookie still. And it ended up working out for them. And it was the call of the Panthers quarterback. So it was something they practiced, but Young was the one who was in the huddle saying, hey guys, like, get down. Don't score here. Get down. First down, get down. Canales giving credit to Young for that. And I think there is more trust. There is more trust. We'll go to the throws downfield in a second here. But there is clearly more trust between the quarterback and the coach. I think this game, I said it a couple weeks ago, where I wanted Dave Canales to just put it on the table. Like, if the quarterback messes it up for you, he messes it up for you, whatever. If he throws 3 picks, whatever. You put Dalton in. That's the worst case scenario. And I think today, Canales didn't game plan as if he was scared of the quarterback, as if he was scared of taking risks that he needs to take to win the game. And the 4th and 3 is the one that stands out. You go to Renfrow in that situation. You don't punt the ball. You don't give it back to your defense. You put it on the table. I also think Young looked like he was playing looser. So Canales says Young's getting better and better. It seems the two trust each other more. I think Young in general looks like he's playing a little bit looser too. I think especially with the footwork. He's setting his feet. And he wasn't doing that earlier this season. It was leading to turnovers. And if not, it was leading to really bad throws and misses. He didn't miss a ton today. He didn't. And he was threading the needle, and it's because he's setting his feet. Before he throws, he sets his feet. It doesn't look like he's kind of doing like an Irish jig, because it does look like that at times. And it has this season. I thought that improved. I think the pre-snap operation in general looked better as well. There was a couple mishaps. I think, what was it? The first drive of the 4th quarter where you went 3 and out and then Dallas went 3 and out. Oh my gosh, Dallas, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me, Brian Schottenheimer? Going 3 and out on swing passes. What a freaking dink. Compare that to Canales. So Canales out-coaching the competition once again. Schottenheimer calling swing passes. It looked like the Falcons game plan from a couple weeks ago where they just kept feeding Bijan Robinson in the flat. Schottenheimer tried doing the same thing. It made no sense. It's like you have Dak Prescott, who's like the top 3 quarterback in the league. And you're going to do that? You're going to throw swing passes to Jaden freaking Blue? Are you kidding me? But besides the point, I went on a tangent there. This is about the pre-snap operation with Young, which I think looked cleaner. You were getting the ball off in time. It seemed they always had 5 or 10 seconds left on the clock. There were a couple personnel things that Canales messed up. But Young was on. He was. And some people might go, well, you're not giving him enough credit. You should give him more credit for throwing the ball down the field. I don't give Young credit for throwing the ball down the field to a wide open wide receiver. Case in point, the first drive of the second half, 4 plays, 80 yards, you get a touchdown there. It was the Rico Dowdle 36-yard touchdown from Young. Jimmy Horn on the play before, or a couple plays prior, had the 34-yard, it's like a wheel route he ran. There is not a Cowboys defender within 15 yards. And it was unreal. Like, serious. It was unbelievable how bad this secondary was in Dallas. I didn't realize how Dak dependent the Cowboys were. It's like they did not show up at all on defense. They didn't tackle. The secondary was having coffee, literally. And I don't think they're all that bad, talent-wise. Like, they have Kenny Clark. They have Diggs. Donovan Wilson, hey, he's a pretty good safety. He wasn't today. He was nowhere to be found. The play action that you scored the touchdown on a Dowdle, watch the playback. Like, you know in youth football, when you'll have like a wide receiver like laying down or something, and then the defense is like, oh, there's no one there. He's laying down. We can't see him. And then you throw it to the kid who's laying down and he runs in. That is how it was watching the Cowboys play defense. The Panthers could have done anything and have gotten away with it. They could have done whatever they wanted. They looked like a fish out of water. They looked like a complete fish out of water on the defensive side of the ball against the Panthers. I think Young probably could have had 400 yards today. I think if they wanted to say, screw it, let's just mess around. Let's play Madden. Let's just pretend we're playing Madden and just throw Hail Marys the whole game. I think Young could have had 400 yards. That is how bad that Dallas secondary was. And the play with Dowdle, it's like the play action, he's just fakes the handoff. He's sort of just, prancing down the field, prancing. He's like walking. He's like literally tiptoeing down the field. And then he just throws his hands up and Young gets the ball to him. Not a defender in 20 yards of Dowdle walks in for the 36-yard touchdown. Similar thing with Horn. And then you killed them on the double moves, which again, credit to Canales. We'll talk about what Canales had to say about the quarterback in T-Mac. Canales gave a lot of credit to the QB and the wide receiver saying they studied this team. They know. They knew exactly what they were doing. But I give credit to Canales because I think he saw a weakness with this Dallas team. He said, if you do any sort of double move on Dallas, the Big D can't figure it out. They can't figure it out. Those guys were jumping routes. It's like all you had to do is a little hezzy. And they look like me playing basketball, just ankles broken, falling over. It was comical. And that's why I don't give Young a ton of credit for the downfield throws. Yes, he made the throws. Yes, he didn't turn the ball over. Aside from the interception that was all T-Mac's fault. I think a lot of this was Dallas beating themselves on defense. I'm not calling it a fake win. I think the Dolphins and Falcons wins, those were wins that I think were more fool's gold. This was a real bona fide win. I'm just not going to sit here and tell you the quarterback's going to catch lightning in a bottle and throw 300 yards the next time he plays. I don't extrapolate that from this game. I think they had a good game plan. They knew the weaknesses in the secondary, which gives up a league worst. I believe it's 284 yards per game passing. And the Panthers weren't even close to that. They didn't need to be. And I don't hold him accountable for that. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Young's game is somehow something we can use to infer the future. And that he's going to be an elite passer because he's able to pick apart the Cowboys defense. I think the Cowboys defense is awful. I think it was unbelievable how bad they were on defense. And it's going to come back to the coaching for me. Canales knew what to do. Whether it be the blocking schemes, the pulls, some of the protections. Some of that's Young, too, in the pre-snap operation. But also knowing how to coach the receivers. And I think that's all Canales. It's like, look, T-Mac, you did this little hesitation here. Donovan Wilson's going to bite at that every time. Oh, Rico, like when you take the play action, I know you're supposed to do a hitch, but how about you just go down the field? It's like there's going to be no one there. And these linebackers are out to lunch. These safeties are out to lunch. We'll take advantage of that all day. And the Cowboys look like they didn't do any prep. They look like they were out partying, and the quarterback went to bed at 5 p.m., and he's the only one that they trusted, along with George Pickens, and they said, you know what? We're going to pretty much have a home game at Bank of America. We're going to have our fans in the crowd. We don't have to do much homework. They're the freaking same old Panthers. And they were just going to throw the ball all over the yard, and they did it to an extent, but it wasn't enough to win. It wasn't enough to win. Now, here is Bryce Young on his wide receiver one, who had 2 touchdowns today, T-back.
And just an amazing job on a double move, great route, and for the first touchdown. And then we had put the play in that he scored on for the second touchdown. And he's, when we designed it, he's kind of last in progression. And he came in and he was like, we ran it. He's like, I love this play. He's like, this is great. This is a great design. He's like, and if you get back to me, I'm gonna go win. And we had talked about it actually yesterday. It was just like, it's great to see the buy-in of someone who's like, last in progression and still loving the play, still can't wait for it to get called, and like him really taking ownership. And he was like, man, if you get back to me, it's going. And it ended up, and he called his shot.
I want to touch on this quick before I talk about T-Mac's relationship with the quarterback. Another straight week. So this is the second week in a row where a player has called his shot. So last week against the Dolphins, it was the 30-plus yard run by Dowdle. Dowdle had called the play. And then T-Mac comes back this week, a play that he programmed where he was actually the last read for the quarterback. So wrap your head around that. Like T-Mac, your wide receiver one, the guy who's supposed to have this big ego. I think he has a lot of confidence. But he's like, no, let's do this play. I'm the last read. I don't really care. I want the other guys around me to succeed. But I know even if when you get through your progressions, I'm going to be there wide open. T-Mac called his shot. Canales is listening. This is about the culture. This is about the culture. And there's so many directions I can go. My brain is like overpowered right now. It's like too much electrical activity going on. But first, it's T-Mac's relationship with Young. They trust each other. They do their homework. And second, it's Canales, who I think had a little bit of a coming-of-age moment. And I think he's had a couple. I think one with Derek Brown, his sit-down with the coach. I think Tepper a little bit, maybe has pushed him a tiny bit. We'll talk about that in a second here. I think something has changed with how Canales goes about the operation and how he goes about the day-to-day. And I think he's less of an intellect. I think at points with Canales, it's like he's got the meta glasses on, he's got the tight freaking Nike and the Hollister jeans, and he sits there with his freaking menu, and he has like AirPods in when he calls the offense. He's got like AirPods, like a freaking New York finance bro walking down the street. Like that, nothing around them matters. Nothing around them exists. It's just me and my play calls. And I think Canales had a little bit of a coming of age moment where he's like, you know what? Maybe trying to be Einstein is not the best for me and not the best for this team. And he's listening to the players And it's leading to results, which is amazing. And I was wrong because I told you, I was like, it's sort of like they land the plane and you figure out a baby's driving the plane. It's like, oh, is this good that the players are calling the plays? Well, it's working for you. I think it's indicative of a shift in the culture, which is putting the players first. And just juxtapose how Young feels about T-Mac with his quote about Xavier Legette. So Young asked about Xavier Legette on the lateral, the makeshift hook and ladder, where Legette catches it, and Legette goes to lateral it back to Rico Dowdle. It almost turns into a Cowboys fumble recovery. Thank God Legette ended up falling on the ball after. Young, when asked to comment on that sequence of events, he goes, I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. And you think about the homework that T-Mac and Young are doing together. They're sort of like middle schoolers collaborating on a science project. And they got the best volcano in the 8th grade, let me tell you. Because they're staying up late. They're not playing video games. They're not on TikTok. They're getting it done. I almost just swear for the first time on this program. They're getting it done after hours. And I didn't know T-Mac had that. Like, I didn't know, especially with his past, where it's like he's always been the 5-star recruit, the superstar athlete, just so much more physically talented in the competition. And he still has those physical traits, but it's like, was he going to take the next step intangibly? And by all amounts he has, you have a true bona fide wide receiver 1. It's only going to get better between Young and T-Mac this season. They're only further going to get on the same page. Jalen Coker's coming back. Renfro gives you a tiny bit underneath. He gives you enough. Those quick little slant routes. I like this team's stock going forward. Even though you have some challenging games coming up, you do have the Jets, which is going to be hopefully an easy one, but then you have the Bills and the Packers. And then you have the Aints. I think if you can win 3 of these next 4, wow. And even 2 of these next 4, you're 5-5. But if you can go 6-4, oh my gosh. Let's talk about shattering expectations, especially for the coaching staff, which has outcoached the opponent in all 3 of these wins. You haven't won the way you thought you were going to win, which is Young just outdoing the opposing quarterback. That hasn't been the case. These past 2 games, you've won. Tua and Dak probably, at least, I mean, certainly on paper, Tua had one really bad throw at the end of the game in the 4th quarter against the Panthers. And Dak missed underneath a couple times today, but I still think Dak and Tua outperformed Young, and you're still winning. You're still winning. Okay, finally, we're going to go into this. This is Canales talking about the purpose of the season after winning today against Dallas.
There's got to be a trust in this process that it will lead to good things. If you just show up and give us everything you have when you're in this building, when you walk in these doors, it leads to improvement. That's what we're looking for, progress. We're looking for improvement in all areas, and we're seeing that. We're seeing groups work together to be able to come away with the full team win right there was really amazing, and it allows me to just double down on the fact that this process works. If we stay together, we continue to just bravely and courageously look at the mistakes that we've made and correct them.
I think he's talking to David Tepper there. I think that is him talking to Tepper. He uses the words, it allows me to double down on progress, double down on our process. It sounds to me, it's like the boss man is sitting him down. The boss man is sitting him down, arms crossed. We've all been here. Arms crossed, like the chest puffed out, looking at you. So, where we at with those deliverables, Dave? We're 2-3, Dave, and the quarterback really hasn't progressed that much. And what can you tell me about the football team, Dave? Let me learn something here, Dave. Let me learn something here, Dave. And I think Tepper had one of those conversations with him, maybe not last week, certainly earlier in the season when he was, I believe after the first loss, Tepper called him into the office and sat down with Canales, and they've probably talked since then. And Canales goes, well, this win, you know what it allows me to do? It allows me to go into my boss's office and say, look, this is working. We've outrushed teams by 405 yards. We held the Dolphins to 19 yards on the ground. We held the Cowboys to 31 yards on the ground. We're stopping the run. We have 455 rushing yards over the past 2 games. And you give me a quarterback that I really don't have that much faith in Bryce Young, and we're still winning these games. We're tackling better. We're out-scheming these coaches. And I don't think Schottenheimer or Mike McDaniel are anyone to hitch your wagon to. But you're out-coaching them. You're out-tackling them. It's like all the intangibles, the effort, the scheme, the practice, those things have been on display. And then you combine it with some of the decisions Dan Morgan has made, which is $150 million at guard in the offseason in 2024. You extend Taylor Moton, even though he's getting older. And I know Hunt and Moton weren't on the field today, but I think Canales is looking at that and going, because Canales is involved in these personnel decisions as well, mind you. And I think he's calling Dan in, and they're doing a little high five, and they're going to Tepper and go, I don't know what the future of the quarterback is. The future of the quarterback is in Bryce Young's hands. Let's see how he performs down the stretch. And let's see how much faith we have in building a future around him. But look, the Lions a couple of years ago, they had the O-line, they had the D-line, and that's how they started whatever they are now, whatever you want to call them, a playoff contending team, year after year, because they built and solidified up front on offense and on defense. That is where the Panthers are. And they can figure out the quarterback later. And the team stock, like it or not, is on the rise. And they have a bright future ahead of them. Who knows what happens to the quarterback? This season's about progress, says Canales. We're going to make Trevin Wallace look like a decent linebacker. We're going to get a lot out of guys like Mike Jackson, who hasn't played well recently, but he actually really did right the ship earlier in the season. Our receiving core, our offensive line is going to be banged up. Well, guys like Josh Nijman are going to come in and still play well. We'll make up for that. We'll sign Cade Mays and Brady Christensen to really good money deals. And these are guys that are going to end up looking really good for us in the season due to injuries. We're looking for progress. Trust our system, Dave. Trust it, Mr. Tepper. Trust it. You need to trust me. You need to trust me. These meta glasses, they can see into the future. I'm Dave Canales. And this is The Tone. Thank you so much for tuning into this amazing program. It has been an absolute pleasure today. Stay tuned for more.